Welcome to Bridging the Gap. It's another episode with me and Brittany.
Hey,
Um,
everybody.
hey, so today we're going to talk about. First of all, I just want to say, you know, just we're thinking about all the ones that's lost their lives to gun violence. So just really throughout time, really, this has been a big issue in America specifically for a long time. And me and Brittany today are going to talk about that and some of our thoughts about just these recent mass shootings and just a little bit, a bunch of everything. So I think this would be a really good episode, and for y'all as the viewers to have a new perspective and to see where we're coming from. So I want to talk
Yeah,
about. Go ahead.
we definitely are sending our thoughts and prayers to those who have been impacted by gun violence.
Yes.
Also to the families that are left over and the friends and community that are hurting from the Uvalde school shooting.
Yes.
And also the Buffalo, New York shooting, and amongst many other shootings that have taken place that we're actually going to discuss here on this episode. So, if you will, we'll just take 3 minutes. Well, no, I'm sorry, not 3 minutes, but about 5 seconds of silence to honor those who have lost their lives. Thank you, Kevin.
So all right, Brittany. So, you being from Texas, obviously this has been a global thing, but really being in the home state with the school shooting, what are your thoughts on it? And then I'll give you my thoughts.
I feel like this has been going on for too long, and it's not about people's right to bear arms at this point. It's about the money that come from the individuals who are profiting off of individuals who are purchasing firearms,
Mm-hmm.
who are also benefiting from, even lost lives, because we have to be realistic about these things. Funeral homes, they make a lot of money. Governors, they make a lot of money off of these political topics. However, they aren't being preventative, they're being reactive, but even their reactive state is not preventing another situation from happening. They have had ample opportunities to be able to come back and make adjustments to the laws that they have put forth. Especially, not considering the mental health aspect of the individuals that they are permitting to get these license to carry license, and also just being able to purchase firearms. People aren't going through psychiatric evaluations before they are able to have access to something so deadly.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a rise in cases of this, whether that be from people, experiencing manic episodes, or whether it is people being inspired by becoming copycat killers.
Mm-hmm.
These are all things that, I think that we need to pay attention to. And being from the state of Texas and having a governor who stands for, everybody being permitted to be able to, open carry, is scary. And we've seen the Uvalde elementary school shooting and how that whole process played out. But then you still have an NRA conference, but then you establish a rule that there will not be anybody allowed to bring in firearms. Why? If you're okay with everybody else's lives being impacted in a negative way, why do you get to shield yours? Why do you get to close in on security to make sure that you are safe and protected? Are you afraid of the monster that you're creating?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to piggyback on what you say, the shooting was terrible. Just watching it from my end down here, it was just very heartbreaking. To see that people don't realize it's a political issue, in which it is. Because like I said, what you said, we've ignored the gun control issue for so long. People think that we want to take the guns away. And that's not what we want. You can't physically go knock on every door and take all the guns. That's not what we're saying. We're trying to make it harder to get some of these guns. Because if you look at the US to any other country in the world, we are the only ones that have mass shootings at the clip that we do. And that's obviously a problem. Like, you can't ignore like the stats on that. Like, it's crazy. Like, that is such a big problem. And but after the Sandy Hook deal, after the Robb Elementary in Uvalde, like, sadly, like, these won't change. Like, come November, when election comes and it's in the third, people just forget about it. You know what I'm saying? And we is the new generation of speakers, and we can't allow that to happen. We have to get these people. That's so, like, everything goes back to voting and getting these people out of office that make these decisions, because like we have to make a change, because how many kids, how many more people have to die,
and to also go off of what you were saying, getting people in to vote, that's highly important. However, it's once these candidates are in holding their office, holding them accountable to what the people are wanting,
yes,
what the people are needing, because realistically, you're going to have a Democratic Party and you're going to have a Republican Party, and whichever party could win. So you can't control that, but you can control what they do while they're in there.
mm-hmm.
And if they're not, then it's just like we go through job evaluations for the companies that we work for. If you're not doing what you're supposed to do with your job, then you get terminated. Yes. And I think that people need to realize that we are more powerful in numbers to get the job done. If we aren't happy, we have a voice. If we aren't happy, we have the foot power to be able to make changes. We saw this whenever they created the Breonna Taylor law in 72 hours. I've had a politician tell me, what it would take, 5 to 7 years to get a new law established. I beg to differ, because I saw when people start to loot and tear up companies and buildings and do a lot of damage and cause, a lot of funding for the taxpayers, and having, more police patrol out during the protests and things of that nature. They hurry up and made the changes. When it actually started to sit down, because of these causes, they had more fire up under their butt. So I think that it's a continuous thing that we as a nation have to continue to do to hold these people accountable.
Yes.
You can't sit somewhere and watch a problem and not think it's a problem, because it's not a problem to you. It's about the problem to the people that you're serving. That's the whole reason why you're in that seat, to be a representative of the people.
Mm-hmm. I think people forget that when they get elected, because there's so much power and stuff that goes into it, and they forget about the regular people like you and me. They forget to serve us, you know what I mean? And that can't happen. We just have to vote. So there's been 14 mass shootings since the Memorial Day weekend. So
just since the Memorial Day weekend alone?
Yeah, since last. So they tracked it from last Saturday, Saturday morning to Monday night. There's been 14 different mass shootings across the U.S. And what's sad is, people think that, how you said, like, if it doesn't happen to them, it's not out there.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like 14 different states, you know what I mean? People that's been affected by this has lost a loved one or been hurt, so they haven't got to spend a Memorial Day with them, a holiday with them, and we have to be really considerate of that, just because it doesn't happen in Duncan, Oklahoma, or in a Fort Worth, Texas, or wherever that it does happen somewhere. And I think we have to look more of that and realize that, like I said, it does happen, and it affects a lot of people,
I think that and I know this is hard as a parent. I could only imagine. But just in making the world see, it reminded me of the Mamie Till story.
Yes, with Emmett, yeah.
Emmett Till. And I think that that's what it's gonna take. This is my child's leftover corpse. This is what the evidence is of the decisions that you're making. The world needs to see that. As harsh as it is, as uncomfortable as it would be to see that, you have to realize just out of that elementary alone in Uvalde, there were what, 21 people
Yeah.
that lost their lives. That's not even including the husband that suffered a major
Right.
heart attack
Right.
from
Yeah.
breathing over wanted to teach his wife that lost her life. Now you have to deal with the effects of, I believe they have 4 children
And not even
that
his grandma who died, who he shot before he left. You know,
right. You know, you have to, it's still people like the young lady that's one of the only survivor of that shooting. um you know, thinking about the long-term effects on her, you know, you have to deal with the trauma. What about the trauma of these parents that had multiple kids that were in the same school that
right.
survived the shooting?
Mm-hmm.
What does their bedroom look like, or did it look like that night? You know, most siblings, they when younger in age, they share bedrooms. Sometimes they share the same bed. What lingering questions would that surviving sibling have, the trauma that they're experiencing? But I don't think that these politicians are thinking about that when they're making these decisions to say, hey, you get a gun, you get a gun, you get a gun. We all get guns, but you don't get proper training on how to do it. Go on YouTube and figure it out. It makes no sense.
Right. Because watching one news interview with a little boy that made it, you know, it was just terrible. Like, you know, they were hiding. Then the officer was like, hey, scream if you need help. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The little girl said help, and then the dude shot her. You know what I mean? And just even just that story alone, I was like, oh my God. You know what I mean? And really just the lack of the police, how they handled the situation.
Yeah, because you know, you had police officers that, because the shooting actually happened outside of the school first.
They were unable to contain him. They couldn't.
But you have to know that it took you 90 minutes to execute a safety plan.
Mm-hmm.
90 minutes. That's an hour and 30 minutes. That's much too long for individuals who should have expertise training in security detail. I understand too that in reading on that shooting and how the police handled that situation, it was police officers that went in and saved their kids first, their personal children first, and then worried about the rest of the people after that.
Yeah.
What does this look like in their precinct right now? Like what type of discussions are going on? I want to know. I want to know what policies and procedures are actually in the process of changing, not what you're going to do, what you're doing right now. Because this is a constant game. Okay, an incident happened, we pray about it, we send our thoughts and we send our wishes. The politicians get involved because it's heavier media shooting a story at that moment. They talk about they're going to do policy updates, and they're going to train. And then we see these incidents again, and then we're in a constant emotional roller coaster and cycle based off of their leadership negligence.
Exactly. It's never ending. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people thought after the Sandy Hook incident, that stuff would change. You know what I mean? A lot of people and I'm just in a lady. You know, we were just talking about it. Leona Hall, she was a pregnant woman who got shot 5 times. You know what I mean? Unarmed. You know, did everything the police asked her in Kansas City and still shot her. And that's what people are.
And that's multiple times. And then up to just like the story that we discussed about Lawton, Oklahoma.
Yes, with Quadre Sanders, like it's and it's just like it's just crazy to think about like that. Like you have to realize these things and where we're coming from on this. You know what I mean? Because it's an issue. Like it really is. Like with the officers, with regular people, like guns are just crazy right now. You know what I mean? And if the cops weren't unable to handle him in that situation, what could a teacher do in that situation? That's like, you know what I mean? Like if the shooting happened outside, boom, you know, they can't get them. A teacher having a little pistol, stopping people, like what is that really gonna do to somebody? Like, you know what
Right.
I mean? Because I'm sure it was more than one officer trying to get him. I think it was two or three. They were trying to get him. They couldn't do it. So I mean, that'll be for another episode. You know what I mean?
Definitely have to follow up with a couple of educators and bring them on the show,
Yeah.
because you have to also think about, just because they're in the realm of education don't mean that they meet the mental health qualities or the maturity level to be able to handle a firearm. You also have to think about, you're talking about putting a firearm in the reach of children who experience a range of emotions, that don't have proper conflict resolution skills, who are desensitized to death at this point. You know, you have to think about these things, and I don't think that they're actually thinking about these things. What about actually putting an action plan into place to start building underground cellars into the classrooms, instead of prompting individuals to have to stay inside when there is a bomb threat or when there's an active shooter? How about we build an in-between space in between the classrooms to be able to create an effective evacuation plan?
Because even when I was in high school, when we would do like the lockdown drills and whatnot, like we would just like, the teacher would be like, "Hey, everybody, just kind of stay quiet. I'm gonna lock the door and turn off the lights," and we would just go get on our phones or whatever. Like, especially at Duncan, we were not equipped at all if an actual shooter was to come at the school. But I've asked a bunch of my friends that went to different schools, and it was the same exact thing. They just shut the door and locked it real quick, and then they just got to do what they were regularly doing. Like the teacher was sitting back at her desk or whatever, you know what I mean, writing up a lesson plan or whatever, and it was just like it was a joke essentially, and it's not a real situation. Like, you know
It's
what I
not,
mean?
the
Like, because
door is not
it's
even
complete
bulletproof.
chaos. It's complete chaos when it happens. And I don't know. I just wanted to add that little bit in there, but like we don't like people don't take it seriously because that's an extreme case. You know what I mean? And then we don't handle
But
it at
the
all
thing is,
properly.
every case should be taken as an extreme measure. Because if you don't, in the event that it is a very serious situation, you're not going to know what to do.
Don't not know what to do.
And then you kick into fight or flight mode at that point. So all the logic is gone out the door. So it's just the buildup of trying to survive. Your adrenaline is up during that time. We're not even talking about shooting through. I mean, honestly, anybody could shoot through a door. But what
Right.
about implementing bulletproof doors? Why don't you create some type of smoke system that fogs out the hallway, to make it very hard for the shooter to actually see through the smoke to be able to navigate through a school, no matter how much they study it? What about just an incident with the young man that went into the school and was shooting? Because to my understanding, he came in contact with the security officer before he went inside the school.
They couldn't stop
And
him from that.
and, and I mean, seriously though, you didn't even try to shoot at him. What are you there on the payroll for?
Because oh, what was I about to say? I lost my I don't know, because like just like, and there's some teachers that don't have the best health anyway, and a number of teachers that I've asked was like, I wouldn't feel comfortable at all having a gun. You know what I mean? There was like, and a kid, like one teacher was afraid that the student might overpower them. You know what I
Right,
mean? Like, there's a lot
right.
of different, like, and he's like, like even if you put it in the safe, kids are super. They'll figure out the
Oh
birthdays, the
yeah,
daughter, whatever. They'll figure out and get to it or whatever, because teachers leave in and out all the time. You
right,
know what I
right.
mean? And it's just, I think it's just too much, because some teachers told me that maybe like one per hall gets or whatever. Then at that point, you got to worry about your classroom. Like if a
Yeah,
shooter's going down, so what about the other 10 classrooms in that individual hall that you got? So I mean, there's just too many negative things
different
for me to
perspectives
have
and
teachers be on.
the
I just don't think it's a good idea.
yeah.
But okay.
Because I mean, educators are already overworked and underpaid at 30. You're
Yes.
asking them to take on a whole different job description, and they're having trouble managing the situations that they're having on a daily basis with this new generation of children, young adults. And so, you also have to think about some teachers are literally not mature enough
Oh
to
yeah.
firearms. Because you see stories often where the teachers are fighting the children back. Who's to
Right.
say
Yeah. I
they're
just saw
level
that
headed enough
today.
to say, what, let me not pull this gun to show I'm in control.
Just whip it out,
I'm
and just
more
hold it up.
superior.
I mean, like, there's just too many.
Yeah, it's just so
There's too many
it's just so
issues.
many wild
There's too
things.
many issues involved. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna read us some gun violence stats
Okay, go ahead.
for everybody. So this is from gunviolencearchive.org. If y'all want to look into it, it's a great article, or it's a great article. So there's been 17,922 total deaths and counting. This is as of yesterday. This is when the stats were updated. 17,922 deaths. For homicides, murders, unintentional, and defensive gun use has been 7,956 causes of death. Then it's sadly this 9,966 suicides in America. So that equals 17. That's where you get the 17,922 deaths. 14,977 total number of injuries that's been reported. Alone, so guys, listen, 230 mass shooters in counting. This is in counting. 11 mass murders. So our kids, so this is my little sister's age, from 0 to 11 years old. So from born to 11 right now. There's been 150 children killed in the United States, and 311 were injured. Number of teenagers has been 529 killed, and 1,377 kids injured from gun violence.
Well,
This and my last thing. This is also according to Gun Violence Archive. There were at least 14 shooters or mass shootings in the country over the weekend, over Memorial Day weekend. At least 9 people were killed in the shootings, with more than 60 injured. So that's 9 people that don't have a life anymore, that's been affected. That's not even counting, like, maybe how the man died with his wife. I mean, that's not even including that and other little things that goes into that story. So these are real numbers, like real things that happen.
and also
Yeah.
with another statistic that I have here
Yes.
from the Homeland Defense of Security, being the source of information, there have been alone since 2012, 43 school shootings in the state of Texas.
That and to piggyback off that, that's bigger than California, which has 37, Illinois, who has 31, and Florida has 26. Or I'm sorry, 37. Yeah, 37 in Illinois, 31 in Florida, and 26 in Pennsylvania. So those are, like, that's crazy to think about, that Texas has the most school shootings. But y'all are probably
And
the most
we have a
serious gun
government that's
control.
just so for everybody getting a carry.
Yes.
And it just baffles me. He had the audacity to say at the NRA conference there are no guns to be permitted inside. It really, I would really like to sit down and talk to Greg Abbott and Ted Cruz, which is our senator. So
Yeah, you got some good ones.
hopefully if you guys see this video, please reach out because we want to talk.
Yeah, you got some good representatives. Well, I have Kevin Stitt and Langford, and Oklahoma and Texas are this is pretty
Like
bad.
practically right there together.
Right there
So
together. We're right brother in
yeah.
arm.
So
But
Kevin, you want to tell the people where they could find our information?
yes, there's our socials. So our Facebook is Bridging the Gap 34. I'll say Brittany, her personal Instagram is bowtie_slayer. I always remember that. My personal Instagram is Kevin the Great. It's THEGR8, like the letter 8 and T_. And then Fallon's, hers is just Fallon Howe. So you can find all three in our Instagram. My mom will blame our Instagram is Bridging the Gap _34. You can reach out to us all the time.
We definitely want to hear from you
Yeah,
guys.
we definitely want to hear from you guys. We're gonna have some events hopefully soon. We've been planning a lot of this stuff. Another thing we want y'all to update y'all on is the Buffalo shooting. Um, he's only getting charged with one murder out of the 10 people he killed, I should say.
One murder for 10 bodies.
Yeah, so one murder, and I think he's getting charged with the cop's murder.
And you have to make that make sense to me.
Yeah,
You have
so
that makes sense to the families
with
of
the
the other
family,
9 individual lives that were not charged for.
so that's how America is right now, sadly. But as you can
But
find,
it doesn't have to be, and it will always not be that way. But it takes us to be able to step up
yes,
and use our voices
yes,
to express our outrage by losing our loved ones just because it wasn't your child, it wasn't your grandparent, it wasn't your parent, wasn't an uncle or friend. At some point in time, it could be.
yes.
Why not prevent that if we can?
And guys, being from Oklahoma, there was a possible threat in Oklahoma City these last couple of days. He's out on bond right now. He got a $5,000 bond pass, so he's out. He was gonna mimic the Buffalo shooting.
Wow.
So I mean, so like guys, this is like real. Like, it's not a far away thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't just happen in California or in Texas or wherever. You know what I mean? So far away, this happens everywhere. It is a real problem. So
And also, before we wrap up the episode, I do want to encourage any individual that may see this video that if you are thinking about committing a murder or a mass shooting or even suicide, that you reach out to someone and actually talk through it. Because I know in the limelight, it may seem that fame is worth it, but you have to think about the lives that are left over after a foolish act and a heartless act of, you just wanted to live up to the next person's name and headlights. You have to think about you have so much more to offer in life than to sell yourself short in that capacity, or to even shorten somebody else's opportunity to be able to leave their legacy behind. So we want to take the time to thank you guys for watching this episode. And we hope that it is infectious and contagious and that you will share it, because our message is for the masses.